We're going to have Carolyn Roystein and Abelian Pondag. Did I? No. How do you? Ebeline. Okay, I'm sorry. Uh, from Fabrique, talking about the Isabella, Stewart, Gardner. Isabella Stewart Gardner Museum website. All right. So welcome.
All right. Hello, everybody, again. Hope you're having a great day. Thank you very much for joining us. My name is Carolyn Royston from the Isabella Stewart Gardner Museum, and this is Ebeline Pondag from Fabrique, the digital agency in Amsterdam, the Netherlands. We're a very international panel of two. So we are going to be talking to you today about the new website for the Isabella Stewart Gardner Museum, a little bit about our process and our approach, and how we worked with Fabrique on this project, and just a little bit about what's happened since we've launched it a couple of months ago. So, how it started. So I joined the museum about 2 years ago, and we had a shopping list of digital projects, one of which was we needed to make a new website. This had been around for many, many years and was very clunky and difficult to work with, and also a very passive experience, and really didn't give the kind of impression about the vibrancy and all of the breadth of activity that was happening in the museum. So we really wanted to move away from this very passive experience to a visitor-focused website. We wanted, as I said, it to be reflective of the vibrant museum activity and range of what the museum is about. And we wanted to think about how could we bring together all the different areas that the museum is involved in into something coherent and holistic for visitors. So just to give you a very quick idea for those of you that don't know the museum, it's quite a complicated visitor experience. This is Mrs. Gardner, who created the museum, and she's really, even today, at the heart of the museum. And the museum is really a reflection of her thinking and her ideas, and we are not allowed to change anything that she created in the museum, and which creates obviously some interesting visitor experience challenges. So the museum is made up of a courtyard and a living collection. This is display changes 8 or 9 times a year. We have a series of installations throughout the museum that Mrs. Gardner created. So things that she put together, often very eclectic, but in her vision. We have historic rooms. We have contemporary exhibitions and a contemporary building. We have historic temporary exhibitions. We have a performance space and contemporary music concerts. And we have a very active classical music concert series as well. So as I said, a complicated experience, and often we find that people are, they either love the museum, or they're bewildered, or they're confused, or they don't quite know what's going on or what to expect. So we really wanted the website to help people to better navigate and be prepared for the experience. So because we recognised that it was a complicated visitor experience, the challenge really to then go straight into thinking about how to make a website was actually, how do we bring all these things together into something that's coherent and something that's understandable for people, and gives them a sense that actually this is the totality of the museum, and to be able to show off the breadth of everything that we do. And I think what I found when I started the project was that even within the museum itself, we were having difficulty being able to express that in a coherent way. So I wanted to take a step back and do a visitor journey mapping project to help us to better understand what the experience of visiting the museum is like through their eyes. And we focused on first-time visitors because they are 65 to 70% of our visitors. And we felt if we could get it right for them, then we're going to really cover everybody that visits the museum. And what we learned through the visitor journey mapping process was that we needed to really scaffold and frame a first-time visit, that people didn't really know what they were coming to. It's not a regular museum. You know, they think they're coming to a historic building, but they enter into a new building where there's no art. And we have no labels. It's not a sort of linear narrative experience going through the galleries. It's dark, and we wanted to really help people to scaffold and frame that visit for them so they would be better prepared. After we'd done the visitor journey mapping and started the website project, we also asked visitors on site about their, both about why they were visiting, but also how they'd use the current website in their visit. We did a survey question online about really one question: how did you use our website today? And out of all of that information, the mapping, the survey questions, the talking to visitors, we developed some goals for the website, which enabled us to really put together a tight RFP to send out to digital agencies. And in that process, we wanted the RFP to be comprehensive. We were very clear about what we were looking for because we'd done all of this work up front. We ended up inviting 11 agencies, some local ones to the Boston area, some regional ones, some national and international. We got 8 back, and out of that we interviewed 3 agencies. So we did a lot of work up front. Probably we started the visitor journey mapping process last summer, and then we got to the interview phase with agencies in the fall. Yeah. So we took about 3 to 4 months to really figure out exactly what it is that we wanted to do. And out of that interview process, we shortlisted and invited these 3 agencies in to the museum, and we ended up choosing Fabrique, a digital agency in Amsterdam, who have done a lot of work with other museums like the Rijksmuseum, the Van Gogh Museum, Tate, etc. Ebeline will tell you a bit more about that. But the reason that we chose them was that they really understood what our museum was about very quickly. They came the day before their interview, and in that time they had done some draft concepts, and they came and visited the museum, and then that evening they changed them, which we were very impressed with. But I think the idea really was that they understood that it was a cabinet of curiosity, and that was really what our museum, the essence of our museum. They looked at our branding and our colour palette, and they came up with a very initial design concept that they brought into their presentation. Our website looks nothing like this now, but what they did was, I think, brought together that idea of, these various strands that we do, and then how they hang together, really using, I think, Mrs. Gardner as the kind of focal point, and took that concept and thought about how it applied to these other areas. So you've got the living collection on there, you've got kind of thematic ideas on the right, and just thinking again about how do you bring all of these different elements together, and we felt that you really understood what we were about, and were able to kind of translate those ideas that we'd put in the RFP really into something that was kind of conceptually what we were looking for. So I'm going to hand over to Ebeline now to talk a little bit more about their impression of that. Might be very different.
So yeah, we were very excited that the Gardner Museum chose us, a little company in Amsterdam far away. And what we really wanted to do is making something really special for them. A very unique website that suits the brand, that suits their museum. And as Carolyn, I told it, we started all over again, and we started with a new process. But there's an underlying question, a little bit not applicable only to the Gardner Museum, but I think to every museum, is how can you design something new and something different for your own museum? Of course, I take tulips because that's Dutch. So it's a very unique museum, and how can we, make it a distinctive website or a distinctive product? So we believe that, you can take up 4 principles and apply it to your own institution. The first one is really look at your own brand, look at your values. Another one is looking at your audience, because I think that's for every institution a little bit different. But also, what do you want to achieve with your website? And focus. I think focus is one of the most important things to do in such a process. So I go a bit in detail on every of those 4 points. The first is the brand-driven idea. Everyone knows those brands. They're known for special reasons. Google does one thing very, very good. That's searching. Apple has an experience, and you all have apples, or most of them you have apples. And an example is this one. Of course, you recognize it is Disney World. And whether you like it or whether you don't like it, or I've never been to Disney World, but you understand what they're doing. And their tagline is make something magical, make it a magical experience. So in whatever they do, they make sure that you have that magical feeling. This is, you see it in the persons who are playing, I don't know, Cinderella or whatever. There's magics. And it helps them sell their product too. I have 2 girls, one of 3, one of 6. My house is full of Frozen, Elsa, that kind of thing. So it's their kind of magic that really helps them. But don't forget, every museum is unique. And every museum has its own identity and has its own values. So that's also what you have to keep, when you're designing, something for online, your website, or any other product. There's some basic you need to keep in mind, because a lot of visitors just want to know when you're opening, how much it costs, how to get there. But there's that one special thing that you should take up and make very big. I just put I don't know if you mentioned it, but a very unique museum. It's opened since today. There was the opening ceremony today, a few hours ago. It's there on the right. It's the Louvre in Abu Dhabi. So have a look at that. The second one was the principle. It's, the goal-oriented thing. So Carolyn already said that they had defined their goals, that they put their goals into the RFP. And I think this is really important. So what do you want to achieve? It's not a brochure anymore. It used to be a leaflet, something. It can be more than that. So will it be a destination in its own right, or is it a vehicle to buy or to sell tickets? It will be a platform for researchers. So what's the goal that you want to achieve? And more important, how does it fit in the complete visit journey? So that was for us very important to look at the journey that they already made, and how a website could add into that. These are the goals that we have defined. And what we did is in the first, and I will come back a little bit on the approach, with senior management in a few workshops, we defined the goals. And the most important for us, of course, were the goals that define and inform the website of the design concept. Visitor focused. I think that's also one of a key thing is that you're not designing or making a website for yourself or for your institution. You're making it for someone else, and you have to think like that someone else. So we have different people and we have different needs, and I think I took 2 examples. One is the Morris Hargraves McIntyre Culture Segments. I don't know if you know them, an agency based in the UK. They divided in 8 segments. The Rijksmuseum, in which we worked for, they have 3 main groups: the culture snacker, the art enthusiasts, and the professionals. And they really chose one group. They chose the culture snackers to focus their website on. Another thing, focus and making choices. There are so many quotes. If you look on the internet and you say quote focus, you have all kinds of quotes for all kinds of important people that says, focus on one thing instead of multitasking. I'm a woman. I think I can multitask, but no, I should focus. So really focus and make things better and stronger. I'll just show you one example. I don't know if someone recognized this website. It just looks like a picture. But if you mouse over and if you interact with the website, you get some tools. And I don't know if you recognize that this is the website of the Rijksmuseum. And the only thing what they did is focusing on the collection. So they put the collection in the heart of what they do online. We designed tablet first. It's already 5 years old, the website. Tablet first was a new thing, but the idea was that people could touch the art and that you can really bring the collection close by the public. Touch it, downloaded it, do something creative with it. It was all allowed. And we're now working on a new app for them that really puts the collection in your pocket. So a few basic things that we always keep in mind when we're designing a website for an institution like the Gardner. Since the Gardner is in Boston and Amsterdam is across the ocean, although there's an Amsterdam close by Boston anyway, we thought, how are we going to do this? Because normally, you sit together, you go to your client. It's in Holland, everything is an hour away, and that's nothing here. So we didn't think that the long distance was a real problem. We adjusted our process a bit to it. But what we did is that we do believe in working together with the client and together with the people of the museum. So that's also what we propose, is that we worked really close together, and we spent some time in Boston, which is kind of a lovely place. Especially going to the Red Sox. Anyway, go Red Sox! Or what was it? Go Red Sox! Right, go Red Sox! So we did a number of days of workshops, which is very intensive for both us, speaking in a different language, but also for the people of the museum, doing something that they normally don't do every day. So we worked together. We defined some requirements, both from a strategic as from a functional view. And I don't know, but there are a lot of people, and they're from across all departments, because we think it's really important that you involve every department when designing something like this. Another thing what we proposed is to put our designers in residence, and that's kind of in the spirit of the Artist in Residence program that the Gardner has. So 2 of my colleagues stayed there for over a week, and they stayed in-house, which kind of was very special because they had to be inside their apartment before 12 and they couldn't leave at 7 next morning, which was kind of a difficult for my colleague that smokes. Anyway, the good thing is that day in, day out for 5 days, they worked with the team of the Gardner. So it allowed us quick discussions, sanity checks, making a decision, working very agile, and showing everything what they did. I was back home again, but everything what they did the following day. So it was really that working together with the group of people of the museum. And also, if there was a specific thing about their music collection, then it was kind of easy to make an appointment between the one and the other appointments to talk about things. The same period that they were the designer as a residence, we did also some user testing. So we just went down with the designs, did some really rough user testing. Can you find this? Can you do this? and then adjusting that, going upstairs, adjusting, testing again. So very agile, and by the end of the week we had most of the design almost final. So what we did is go back to Amsterdam, but we still wanted to work agile, and I think that on the thing that we did in Boston on a daily basis was now on a weekly basis. And we used all kinds of digital tools as soon as we were back in Amsterdam to allow us to keep up with the agile process and the agile way of working. But of course, this full week of Dutch guys in your museum has some impact on the organization. So, Caroline,
we all started speaking Dutch. That was the first thing that happened. No, not really. Yeah. So I think, for us, there were some real drivers for change around the project. It wasn't just doing a website project. It was really an organizational change project, as these projects always invariably are. And so I think, for us, it was really important to understand that when you make a website, it's a holistic, whole museum project, and it needs internal buy-in from all departments. That you really need to prioritize what's important and to understand the impact of those decisions on the organization. So we're not a big organization. We don't have a big digital team. We had to make some difficult choices about what was important in terms of the launch, what we wanted to have in the launch of the website and what we were prepared to leave behind, and also what was required from those various departments in order to be able for us to be successful for the launch. We really needed to have a robust decision-making process with clear accountability. And for that, we used something called a RAPID, which is, for some people might know it as a RACI, it's very similar, which is basically a list of the tasks, of the main kind of milestones and decision-making tasks involved in the project. And then at the top there, you've got all of the roles involved in it, and then what their various roles are within those tasks. And, there are lots of moments in a website project, as in many other projects that we do, where there is a difference of opinion, or somebody thinks something's more important for them and not for somebody else. And so it was quite important that we tried to follow this process. And I think for the most part, it was very successful. And there were some grey areas. And if I went back and did it again, I would possibly change some of those things. But I think it was actually very, very successful for a museum that really wasn't used to working in this way. As Ebeline said, we try to introduce a more agile and an iterative way of working, which isn't just a process, it's also a mindset change. And that was very important for the museum, and we are trying to continue to work in that way and apply it to other areas and other projects. And this very important idea of moving from a project to a product. So this sense of we're not just launching the website and we're finished and we're moving on to something else, that actually this is a product now that the museum needs to manage and evolve and grow. So these were very important principles for us. And the last one, which is see your agency as a partner, and I really think that's been a very, very important part of the project. One, because we don't have, as I said, a big in-house team, so really looking to Fabrique, and we had a technical partner, a local technical partner as well, to help us to provide that expertise that we needed. So the result, am I doing this bit?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, you don't have
Okay. It's a video, everyone. It's a video.
One woman's daring vision to immerse you in a world of art that's a world apart.
anybody who wants that piece of music. So that is our website. Quite different to what we had before. And I think just a few things to point out. You know, the navigation does not reflect the museum organisation. So this is a big departure for the museum, and we'll see how successful that is as we get some user feedback and some analytics. The content is updated regularly, and we are adding stories and adding music and really trying to make sure that the vibrancy of the organisation is reflective in the site. The collections sit alongside our living collection in the gardens, the music, the contemporary, the stories. Everything really feels like it is more of a holistic whole as opposed to these various silos of activity. And we really tried to focus on Isabella and the stories of the museum. So the site's been live for 2 months. We've had good feedback so far. It's obviously very, very early days. We know there's lots to improve on, and we want to bed the site over the next 6 to 9 months to really get a sense of how it's working and where we need to make some changes. And we found out that we've already been nominated for an award. So I don't know what we've won, but
Anyway.
it's better than the previous website, so woo! And that's it. That's the making of the Isabella Stewart Gardner website. Thank you. I don't know if we have any time for any questions or if there are any, but are there any questions or no? Great.
You mentioned that you that's okay. That you don't have an internal technical team.
No.
Right?
No, we don't. No, it's basically myself and one other person who's a content manager.
So how will maintenance?
So we worked with Fabrique. Also, we had a local technical partner in Massachusetts who are doing all of our build, and they worked with Fabrique, and we'll carry on working with them, with both partners actually. But we do have a local partner because that was very important input in terms of picking an agency that wasn't nearby. Mm-hmm.
What were the tools that you guys used after you left to keep that collaboration and those check-ins going?
Well, there are a number of tools. So you have that kind of project management tools like, you know, Asana or Google Drive, that kind of thing that you can use. We use Slack, which is a kind of a chat thing, so it's very quick. Dun, which is an issue management system, which makes it easy to share everything what you find and to give solutions on that. And what we also did is, as every Monday, so for us late and for Boston early in the morning, to have a check-in and to discuss face-by-face via Google Hangouts or Skype or any other tool, Zoom in. You have different kinds of way to very, you know, to communicate as if you're next door. So, yeah. And we went 4 times to Boston.
They did. They did. Yeah.
Hi, is there a content management system on the back end? And if so, what tool are you using?
We used Drupal. That was one of the requirements that was in the RFP. So it was not stated Drupal, but an open source content management. So you're looking at WordPress or at Drupal. We develop also websites, and we use a framework, Django. That's not that important and not that well known here in the US. So in the discussion we said, okay, let's go for Drupal, and we found a partner that does Drupal.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
How long did the process take from research to design to development, and how many designers were on this project?
So we started the research project last July, and then we actually, by the time we finished the procurement bit, we really started the project in January this year. So we only took really 8 months.
Yeah, 9.
9 months to do the build.
Yeah. Every good project is 9 months.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I was able to sit in on the visitor journey mapping session that you did with MCN a couple of months ago.
Uh-huh.
I apologize, I was a little late.
Sure.
You may have covered this. I'm curious, since you did workshops for that as well, if you could speak a little bit to internally, you know, did those workshops, were
Yeah, so as I said, it was really a step back for, I think, for all of us to really understand what the visitor experience was like at the Gardner, particularly through the eyes of a first-time visitor. And I used the journey mapping really to help me to understand how digital could solve some of the challenges that we had, and how the website could be help to set visitors up for success. So we all have used it in different ways, and it also has been a springboard to a much bigger project in the museum, a visitor experience project, where we're looking at all sorts of things from wayfinding to dealing with crowd flow, to dealing with the lobby area. So all sorts of different things that the project has really initiated. But from my perspective, it's been particularly focused on digital. But I think the really important part of that is understanding that the digital sits alongside all of those things. And so it's enabled us to have a much more integrated approach to the way that we're thinking about the human, the physical and the digital side of, and that relationship within the museum.
In the back.
Did you find that over the course of working on this website that your thoughts and philosophies about what you wanted the website to do and what you wanted to look like changed? And if so, what were those priorities and how did they change?
I think it's more now in a way. I mean, I think that we knew that we had some very clear criteria for success, and what our goals were for the site, and so we knew that we wanted the collections, all of our collections, to kind of sit together. And so I think now for us, I mean, for me, it's beyond what I could have hoped for in terms of a website, and it's so different to what we had before. I think now, as I said, over this next 6 to 9 months, as we start to see people using it, and finding, where they're interested in going, what content they like, where they might have difficulty finding things, I think that may then start to, influence our ideas in terms of how we want to evolve it. But I think it's still very early days. I mean, there's obviously things that we'd like to, little things we'd like to change, but basically, we're really happy with how it's turned out. I'm saying that obviously because Ebeline is standing next to me.
Well, just to add on that, so what you see here is really a design that has evolved, and it looks different than our first, proposal, but it looks also different from the first kind of sketch we made in this form, because of the testing we did with the visitors. And the complexity of the organization, we had to change the navigation. So what I said, focus is one thing, so do a few things. Rijksmuseum offers only 3 ways into their website. The Van Gogh Museum only 2 ways, like, visit and learning something about Van Gogh. And we noticed that although we are really fan of, doing 1, 2, 3 things, that people could not, see the whole pictures, and we had to add more of the top navigation. So we wanted to first, do without navigation, only the panels, so the left one and the right one, and the middle one, but it didn't work out. So that was a kind of change that we discovered during the design process.
Great. Oh, question at the back. Are we allowed to keep going? Okay, let's just do that. Okay.
So, as in terms of staff, who
Yeah.
maintains and updates the content to your website?
So we have a digital content manager, and so she's doing the sort of day-to-day, and we've kept the structure of the project. So we have a website board that sort of looking at the more of the sort of strategic direction for the website, and I think this is the next challenge for the museum, is actually, how we, as I said, move from project to product, and how we think about the management of this website more holistically going forward. And I think that, because this is a brave new world for the museum, I think those are the next big steps that we need to take. It's a good question. Yeah, great. Yes?
Has this design change in the website influenced anything else? Like, do you have a mobile app and, publications and all that?
Yeah, so the project, we didn't mention this, but before we started this project, we had a repositioning project and a kind of brand repositioning. So this is really the first digital manifestation of that. But yeah, I mean, and I think this is also driving a lot of other things as well. Yeah, yeah. Yes. Wow.
The free site, with the website rebuild,
Yeah.
ADA is always kind of a thing that sticks out to me.
Mhm.
So were some of those things taken to mind when you built a whole
Disability.
website, you know, from the
Yeah.
whole vision to
Yeah.
post it,
High contrast.
using speech and text?
Yeah, so what we have on the top right is the high contrast thing, because the visual language of the identity of the museum has very bright colors, which is not that good for accessibility. But we had to change things and we had to adjust towards that. And I think that was one of the things that we took in mind.
Great. Okay. Well, thank you so much, everybody, for staying a bit longer.
Thank you.